Namaste and welcome to the Ilonggayogi podcast. My name is Kate. I'm from Iloilo City. I'm a certified yoga instructor and certified in mental health counseling. I share content on yoga, mindfulness, fitness, mental health, self-care, and wellness. Before we get into it, I want to let you know that I teach classes both in person and online. So if you're interested in taking a class with me, just head on over to bookwen.com/healing-iloilo for the schedule and rates and to book as well. So, hello and welcome back. This is a brand new season, a brand new chapter of this podcast, and I took quite some time to rest from it. Also, it was just impossible to record an episode. I've tried and I've written like a few scripts, but it just didn't feel right, and so I wanted to do this now and finally record an episode now because it's been almost a little over a month, actually, not 2 months quite yet, but my last episode was like the last few days of December, and so it's already Feb and I think it's about time that I come back here and update everyone as well as share a new topic for today's episode. So anyway, just a quick update. As I mentioned, first it was the holiday season. So as you know, it was pretty intense because right after the holidays, as you know, in my previous episode, a lot went down, a lot happened in December. Come January, it was Dinagyang. Not only that, I went back into teaching immediately. Like January 2, I was back to teaching. And then a lot also happened just personally. How can I put it? A few, a few sources of income kind of had to be cut immediately. And because of that, in January, I had to prepare myself to find new work. And fortunately for me, I did get new work. I did get a new job, and it answered my prayer, I guess, of looking for a job that focused more on counseling, less on yoga, because I know that that's kind of what I do on a daily basis. That's It has taken over my life pretty much for the past several years, almost a decade. So I was definitely looking for work that was more along the lines of counseling and mental health, because I know that that's something that I can easily do, something that comes very naturally to me, something that I enjoy doing as well, and is my passion. So I wanted to do work that was related to that, and I wanted to make sure that whatever job I accept or take, it was something that I can commit to for the years to come, and that it just also came easily to me. The work came easily to me. Not saying, I don't mean that it's like I'm not working hard or anything. That is not what I mean. But when you're doing something that you are meant to do, you know how it just easily comes to you. It just feels so natural. It feels so effortless in a way. So I was looking for work that was exactly that. And I've been in this new job for a couple of weeks now. A lot has been happening. It's been quite an adjustment, honestly, because my days are packed. Like, they are so packed. Like, just a quick rundown. I wake up at around 4:30 a.m. pretty much every day, or on days when I have to work out in the morning. So I wake up at 4:30 a.m. because I have to take care of the dogs, kind of let them go out, prep their food, check on them. And then after that, I practice. Like, that's the only time that I can practice yoga on my own, like my personal practice. So I try to wake up early so that I have the time before I head to the gym. And I've tried other times during the day to practice yoga, and it just doesn't work. So this has been like the one that has stuck. So I wake up that early so that I can squeeze in a practice. And usually I prefer to practice only for like 30 minutes or less. I don't like to do a full hour practice because I think that has been where I've been headed towards, like a practice that's less asanas, more meditation, more of the mindfulness practice, not really the poses anymore. So I just practice asanas for about like 20 to 30 minutes. And then I meditate, which is very important to me to do in the morning because that's like the only time, like the best time that I can ground myself and then focus on the actual meditation practice. And then after that, I head to the gym, but this only happens like about 3 times a week. I sometimes I'm unable to practice or to work out more than that anymore. One, because I easily get burnt out. Two, just because a lot of things have been happening recently that has made it difficult to be consistent. So for now, I think 3 times a week is the best. I don't want to go less than 3 times a week. If I can do more, that would be great. But for now, 3 times is just right. So I work out. I always say practice. I'm so used to yoga, but I work out 3 times a week now. After the workout, I usually just hang out with all our other friends there at the gym, our closest friends, sometimes to have breakfast. Not all the time. Most of the time, I just stay there, kind of relax a little bit, and then by 9 I have a class to teach, and then like immediately rush home. Sometimes we have a few errands to do, like for example, right after I teach, that's the time I have to send out deliveries, juice deliveries, so I have to do that. And then I rush home because by 12 p.m., 12 noon, I have a counseling session. So I lead my counseling sessions every day, 12 noon to 1 p.m. Right after that, I try to squeeze in work. As you know, I work on not only my classes, I know I don't only teach, but along with the with teaching yoga classes and basically running this yoga business, you have admin stuff to also deal with, just the marketing stuff that I also handle, making sure that my presence online, Healing Iloilo's presence online is very much active. So I work on that. And sometimes I also work on the yoga shop aspect of it because I do sell some merchandise. I sell yoga mats, tote bags, all these different things. And then I also have the mental health group that I like to be active on. So I have a mental health Iloilo Facebook group if you are not familiar with it. And if you're not part of the group yet, you can check it out and join the group. I usually add anyone who joins anyway. So I take care of that, and I always prepare like content revolving around mental health and create topics where we can discuss and everything. So there's that. And then of course I have my other business, excuse me, my other business was just the daily greens, and I always try to find time for that. And then I have I have said yes to so many other things that, like in the moment I just said yes to it because I really like loved what it was and like the opportunity that it offered. And then like I realized after saying yes that, oh no, I think that I'm like full and packed already and I don't have any more time outside of this. So maybe I should stop. So that's kind of where I'm at because I joined JCI here in Iloilo. So if you're familiar, I'm part of JCI Iloilo Ilang. So it's an all female group or organization. And then so I have that. And then I joined this like mentorship, which is kind of like life coaching, mentorship type of thing, all about like self-awareness, self-growth. And that happens like weekly too. So I have that. And so like around 1 to 2 or 3 p.m., that's a time that I dedicate to like sitting down and actually do mindful work. And then after that, I have another class, like a private class. And then right after that, I rush to my actual regular class in the evening. And then when I come home, I barely have time. I usually have to jump on my computer immediately because I have to work. Because now my new job, um, kind of demands me in a good way, not in a bad way, but I have to work like around evening time because that's like the sweet spot for everybody, so from like 9 p.m. onwards is my working time. So not only am I doing that work, but I also usually do more admin work when it comes to my classes, like just updating the database, everyone's packages, any payments made during the day. I update that during the evening time too, and like send out any recordings. So I'm really like up from 4 a.m. all the way to 12 midnight. So that's been quite interesting to whoa, to experience. It's a lot. It's a lot. Like I sometimes I don't have the time to take a nap anymore. And for me, like taking a nap in the middle of the day is important for my just my well-being, like physically and mentally. I need that. And I used to take naps in between, and now I really don't have the time for that. So I like sometimes I don't even have the time to like jump in the shower because it's like one after the other, so it's kind of crazy. So oof, I need to figure things out. I'm still adjusting, but what keeps me going is that knowing that every single thing that I have said yes to and that I'm currently doing are things that I actually am passionate about, I believe in, I love and enjoy. It's a lot. And I know that I may not be able to do this for like many, many years. So maybe like in a year or two, some things will have to be let go of. But for now, it's okay. I like having all of these things to do in a day. I just need to find ways to course through it in a very grounded and mindful manner so that I don't easily burn out, because I know that I can adjust to it, and make it like second nature to me. But it will take time, and there are some things that I have to say no to, so I accept that. So like for example, like working out, I can't work out every day, which is fine. I used to do that, but like I have to let that go. And I've already said no to certain like classes or privates. Like this is I've already capped off my private classes and regular classes. Like this is it. I've added like another day of rest for me when it comes to my yoga classes. So again, I don't burn out. So things like that. And I've learned to just accept, like, however way the week turns out, if there are things that I'm unable to do, so be it. I will be okay. So that's kind of what's been happening in my January. It's been that hectic and that intense, like one after the other. Not to mention, when I was kind of hoping to record an episode already in January, I got like really, really sick after Dinagyang. So there's that. It was like the flu, and I was like I was out of it for I think 3 days, but right after that, I was fine, like as if nothing happened. So it was definitely like a flu. Um, Also, a big event happened under Hilang Iloilo. So I led my first ever hike and yoga event, and it was in Agararao Mountain View, which is in Pasig. It's not that far. It's like about an hour and a half away from Iloilo City. So that was quite an experience, and it was definitely an accomplishment for me because typically I would always say no to these things. Like I avoid trying to uh, lead any event. I try to avoid having to create like events like this wherein I have to invite a lot of students and like take everyone somewhere out of Iloilo City. Like that used to scare me so much, and I would have never done anything like this. So the fact that I was able to pull it off, and for me in my mind, I just wanted to do something special in January. I wanted to do something special, and it wasn't like there was no doubt in me that this was it. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do a hike and yoga event, and there were about like 30 participants, and I initially only wanted like half of that, but I had to add like another van just so that I could accommodate everyone who was so interested to join, and there were even more who wanted to join. So that was very special to experience, and I think I got so much good feedback as well. So that was very special. So right after Agararao, I definitely wanted to slow down because again, I wanted to fully recover, and also I was transitioning to the new job and just adjusting to that. And so I wanted to rest right after that, especially with how busy December was and January was too. So February came around, and a lot has happened in February because basically February was supposed to be the month that we would get married, like church wedding and the whole shebang and everything. And of course, that was no longer going to happen. So it was just kind of very sad. Like, I think that I was definitely grieving a little bit because you as for me, it's always been like my dream to have a wedding, and it I was so excited for it like last year and everything, and I know that family have booked tickets already and that they were going to be here. So I knew that they were all here, and unfortunately because of certain things that have happened, uh I we weren't able to connect with one another, and so that was alone quite difficult too, just mourning that and grieving that a little bit, grieving the day that we were intended to get married and what that would have been like. And so just I just gave myself a bit of time to mourn that, to cry about it a little bit, and just let it out a little bit. But right after that, I celebrated my birthday yesterday, and that really turned things around. And I want to talk about that a little bit too, because again, like I mentioned, my birthday was very special considering everything that has happened in the past. And to me, I saw that I felt like yesterday, my birthday, was like the last page of all of it, everything that has went down, everything that has happened. It was like the last and final page for me. And like for me, that was like the end of that era. And so earlier while I was driving actually to my yoga class to teach, I just kept thinking about that. It did also make me emotional that, after celebrating my birthday yesterday, I just wanted it to be very, very meaningful. So I really chose who I wanted to spend it with. And I knew that I was going to be emotional during that day too, just because it, it, it it was like this story is now ending, and it's time to say goodbye to that. And I know that everything there were things that were painful, there were things that were very, very special and beautiful and wonderful and everything, and dreams came true when I was 30. But there are some things that I am now letting go of, and I no longer want that what has happened to me to be a story that I keep going back to. Like, I don't want it to be this sob story that I constantly refer to or use as a reason for anything or an excuse for anything. So, to me, celebrating it the way that I celebrated it was a way for me to now acknowledge that whoever was with me during that day are the people who mean the most to me and who I will keep for the rest of my life, hopefully, and that everyone else who is not around or who I no longer would like to be in my life, I can now say goodbye to them, and just move on, and then everything that I have been through, like the pain, the sadness, I from now on don't want to see that as something that will hold me back constantly or weigh me down in any way. Instead, I want to see it as like this huge boulder that has came in and wrecked many things, but now I've climbed that boulder, and I use that as a stepping stone for me to move forward, to move up, and to reach the top, to just reach everything else, and reach my dreams in this, and find happiness because of that. I kind of have let it go. It's like yesterday was like this big exhalation and just letting it all go so that finally I can move forward. And so, this will even be hopefully the last time that I talk about it in that way, like in that manner, wherein it's like, this is something that has happened to me and I'm very hurt by it. I no longer want to see it that way, but instead, from here on out, my birthday symbolized that I see everything that has happened to me as now something that has given me strength, something that has fueled me to create so many positive changes in my life. And now it's going to propel me forward to wherever I'm meant to go. So, yeah, and of course it has been emotional for me to swallow and to take in, but I think it's time, and yesterday definitely was the time for that, because I felt very happy, celebrating it with my storm family, my gym family, and then celebrating it with a few close friends of mine, my girlfriends here, and then soon my best friend will be coming here to visit, and I get to celebrate in a way my birthday with her and just like spend time with her since she is arriving in my birth month. And of course, like Valentine's Day is coming soon. And so I'll get to celebrate that with my husband, for the first time as my husband, as a wife. And so that's very special. So that's kind of what's been happening in my life. And one last thing is that since the puppies are now 2 months old, we have given them away. I gave them to my friends, a few of my gym family friends, and so now they have two. And then, unfortunately, the other two passed away, and so now I have one left here, along with Gucci and Chanel. And this new one, his name is Tommy, Tommy, because I watched WandaVision again like a week ago, or earlier this week, I mean. And if I was able to keep two, I would have named them Billy and Tommy because, after Wanda's twins. So unfortunately, I only have one for now. So we decided to name him Tommy. And maybe, maybe if I get another one, I can name another dog Billy, whether it's a girl or a boy. So there's that. So I have a new puppy and his name is Tommy. And we're so happy to have him because he's like the exact replica of Gucci when he was still a puppy too. So I can't wait to see Tommy grow up and how he will look like in the future. But he's really sweet. He's very quiet. He's not like loud or annoying or anything like that. And he's so smart. He knows how to like pee and poop properly in the pee pad. So that was cool. That made everything very easy for me because I had a difficult time with Chanel, but with Tommy so far, it's just been so easy. So we joke around that by Monday, I will start training Tommy. So it's his time to go to school. So I'll teach him like sit and everything and like paw just like his mom and pop. So there's that. It's been very fun, and I'm glad that there have been many, many, many great things and positive, happy things that have happened recently. So for today's episode, I will be talking about how my life has changed after getting married, especially since, again, Valentine's Day is right around the corner. It's the love month, and it's also been a month in. um, excuse me, a month in of being married. And of course, not much has changed and not much will change yet. I know that the bulk of, really the experience of being in a marriage will come like many, many years down the line. And it's just like this lifelong journey, and I do know that there will be many things that will happen that could really shake up a relationship, a marriage in different ways. And so I'll talk about that a little bit more later. So I just wanted to start off by talking about like just this process and this journey that I took from being single and being, um coming from being this little girl who was so insecure and just had so much like anxiety, just so many issues, to now being where I am with my husband and married and all of this, and all of that. So I remember when I was younger, like in my teens, especially in high school, right? Because that's when everything kind of starts. In high school, we noticed, or I noticed, that a lot of the older, like the seniors, started to notice the freshman girls, was us, right? And I noticed how I didn't really get that much attention, but just because I was like this tall awkward girl, nerdy girl for sure. And I still am, but I was definitely very, very awkward and nerdy when I was in high school. And so I knew that like nobody really cared for me. And of course, I felt very envious. I felt really jealous about that because all of my other girl classmates were getting all the attention. And so, like, I felt very insecure from the start. I was just I felt like I wasn't good enough. I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't like, I don't know, normal enough, or I would never be liked enough by anybody. So from there alone, from then on, I just felt like I needed to be valued by by being seen. Like I needed the attention of others so that I could be valued and feel like I'm enough. So I was afraid of dating. Like I was very terrified of it. When it came to a point that I started to date, especially in college, I was very toxic in relationships. So I had one really long relationship, and early on, we already like lived together during that time. So like that alone, I knew was a red flag. But you don't realize those things when you're like, dating or in a relationship or still new to that, because during that time, that was like my first real long term relationship, like real relationship, committed relationship. So that was my first time ever. So I didn't know like who am I? First of all, I didn't know who I was. I was just very insecure. And I had so many issues. I was very depressed, and I didn't have any coping skills or coping strategies yet. So that's one. I've never like seen a relationship while I was growing up because my parents were divorced and separated. So I never like had that visual, like what does a relationship look like? How does a relationship look like or function, you know? So I came into that like not knowing a single thing, clueless. Like I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know how to function in a relationship. What's right, what's wrong, what's a red flag, what isn't a red flag. So I was clueless during that time. And because of that, I brought a lot of my personal issues into the relationship. I remember I didn't think that much in the relationship because I was just like happy to be in love. But I already knew like deep inside that there were some things that weren't sitting well with me. And yet I just kind of ignored it. It's not really a big deal because the problem is there are relationships like the one I was in wherein nobody like cheated on one another. There wasn't like anything like that. Nobody like hurt anyone, nobody abused anyone in any way. So it was just like smooth sailing, no problem whatsoever. But of course, there were just some things that just didn't work for me. You know how sometimes in a relationship, maybe this person believes in this in a certain way and it doesn't really hurt you or affect the relationship as much, but it just like doesn't sit right with you. So that's kind of what happened. Or like if they do something or don't do something, but you would have preferred that they do this. And like, at that time I was still young, so I didn't know how to communicate that. And I think that we were both also just not aware of many things. We didn't know like who we were or what we wanted in life, and kind of just starting out. So we didn't know lots of things, and so I was very toxic in that relationship and in other relationships afterwards. And I would always like seek approval from my partner. I ignored a lot of red flags because again, I felt like afraid of communicating or setting my boundaries because I felt like I might lose them. And now, of course, that's not the case for me because I've realized that if I do lose them because I've set boundaries, and that's the answer. That's all that I need, right? But during that time, I was just so afraid because it's like, you're holding on to them for dear life, and that's not good. That's not healthy. And then there were times when I would act out to get attention from my partner, just like a child, just very immature. And especially when I was unable to express or like pinpoint what is the issue, like I would do other things that were just like very, very toxic. So, I came from this insecure space, and then I brought that insecurity into my relationships, and then just relied on my partner to give me the love that I didn't know how to give myself, to take care of me because I didn't know how to take care of myself, all these things, which isn't healthy at all. And I didn't know how to communicate properly in the relationship or how to reciprocate certain things. So it was just not going to work out. And I think that's why um like I recently just thought about this, but that's why I'm actually thankful that a lot of those relationships, whether they were flings or they were long-term relationships, didn't work out. That I had all of that in my toolkit, or I don't know, tool bag, but however the saying goes, because that really taught me how to prepare myself for where I am now, what I have now, basically. So yeah, all of that the heartbreak, the pain, the terrible guys that I've dated, or during that time. I'm not gonna say that they're terrible guys until now, but just like during that time, and like me, I was not pleasant either. I wasn't in a good headspace either. So I know that I wasn't healthy for them too. So, I'm glad that all of that happened because I learned so much from that. And that's why that led me to this self love, feeling empowered, feeling sexy and confident era. And I mean, like, partly I was also delusional, just a little bit, because I was really like in my head about feeling empowered, feeling beautiful within all of that stuff. But that era, that time in my life was also very effective because during that time, I really said no to dating or to any relationship. I really took like a year, I think, just like to be with myself and to figure things out and to heal. So I prioritized healing, journaling. I did therapy. I did like walks. I did yoga. I meditated. I didn't work for a while because again, I needed to rest so that I could take a moment with myself and like pause a little bit and like regroup. And so that was very helpful. Um, and I did that because I knew that the next time that I would jump into a relationship or step into a relationship, I just wanted to be ready. I wanted it to be the right kind of relationship and a healthy kind of relationship. So I worked on excuse me, I worked on myself because I knew that when the time comes, when if I work on myself, I know that like the universe will feel that, like that I am ready, and that who you are will reflect on your relationship. So if I'm still a little damaged, or if I'm still bringing a lot of baggage with me, I know that that will reflect in whatever relationship comes in, that it'll be the same thing. Like, for sure, this person will also have baggage. For sure, this person will also be a little damaged. So I made sure that I didn't want that. Like, whatever relationship or whatever partner I was looking for, like the ideal quote unquote partner, I wanted to make sure that I also reflected that in me. So if I wanted somebody who was responsible, who was close with their family, who had healthy relationships, who knew what they wanted in their career, all these things, who knew how to communicate, who was honest, um, all these, yeah, those little things that mattered to me a lot, I made sure that I were those things first, so that whoever came along, I would just feel like whole. I would never be like that affected by them, no matter if it works or not. I would like still hold myself as a person with or without anybody. So that's kind of where I was. And so I worked on myself. And the moment June, my partner, my husband now, came into my life, we really we were very specific about setting boundaries because at that time he wanted to focus on his studies. He was studying his second degree already, and he wanted to take the track of becoming an accountant and doing all of that. And so I knew that he knew that he wanted that to be his priority. So at the start, he was very clear that I don't want to get into a relationship or into anything because that's my focus. And so for me, it was also kind of the same thing. I didn't want to get into a relationship immediately because I wanted to take my time, because that was like something that I kept doing in the past. Like, I would always jump into relationships and say yes without even thinking. So this time around, I wanted to make sure that I was making a sound decision, that I knew this person, and that if ever I could like get out of it, I could still get out of it. So I made sure that we took our time, that we weren't in a rush, and that we knew each other. We set boundaries and we respected those boundaries. And the moment that if we felt like one was about to cross a boundary, we communicated that immediately. And if that was not okay, we were going to end it immediately. Like, that's not going to work out. So let's not force this anymore, because if we force it, one of us is going to get hurt. So we didn't want that either. So we were just like very good in communicating very early on. And so that was very helpful for me. And to me, it was all about like just correcting both of us. Like, we were on the same boat, like just correcting our previous mistakes in our previous relationships and making sure that we did it right this time. So, and it's funny because all I wanted when I was dating, when we were starting to get serious and we were already like officially together, all I wanted was to like get married and have kids and like get pregnant and all these things. But that all of that has recently changed, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So before we continue, let's just take a quick break from this episode to talk about my juice brand, Daily Greens. If you're in Iloilo City and looking for a healthy juice that doesn't have any added sugar, no preservatives, and is packed with a variety of vegetables and fruits, then you should try Daily Greens. With two flavors, healthy greens, which is mostly leafy greens, and carrots and veg, which is about 50% carrots and other vegetables and fruits, this is unlike any other juice sold on the market. Most juices are packed with more fruits to help it taste better, but completely miss the point of being a nutritious and healthy drink. Remember, fruits are still filled with sugar and must be enjoyed in controlled portions. Daily Greens make sure that you get the most out of a bottle, packing it with more vegetables than fruits and making it fresh, not to mention affordable for everyone. You can enjoy a bottle or two every day, which is perfect if your goal is to maintain healthy yet easy habits in the long run. Because we want to ensure the best quality, I encourage you to pre-order at least a day before, and you can either pick it up at any of my classes or have it delivered straight to you via Maxim. This is your sign to start building healthier habits in the most convenient way with Daily Greens. All right, so now that I am married and I am in a completely different place in my life, a lot has definitely changed, but also some things don't really change that much yet. So for one, like when we got married, I suddenly was like, oh, so this is it, like this is what I have been waiting for all my life. And I don't know, maybe it's just like my experience because we just had a civil wedding, we didn't have a church wedding, so it doesn't feel like it's real or like it's legit, in a way. But yeah, it's just kind of weird, like that feeling of, oh, I have a different. Well, for me personally, I wanted to change my last name, so I'm still in the process of that and everything. So it's just like weird that now I have to refer to myself a different way, and like have a different name on social media. Like that's interesting too. Or like whenever, since I was like applying right for a new job and like transitioning into that, my name and certain documents was now like no longer my maiden name. Like that's so weird to me. It's so weird to me. And just like you sometimes like forget. Like for me, I forget like, oh no, I'm actually married, forget in a way that like that has happened. Not because like of anything bad. Okay. But like you're just going about your day and then you realize like, oh my gosh, I'm married, like that has happened already and it's done. That's it. So there's that. Like sometimes I think about that. Like this is it. This is what I have been waiting for all my life, and it's finally here. And I feel like, and I'm happy with my partner. Like there's no doubt about that. That I want to spend the rest of my life with him. It's just like I look at him and it's like we're no longer those two strangers who were just like having fun, playing around with each other. Like we're now actually a family. Like this is it. So it's like, what? It's so mind blowing to me. So that's been interesting to wrap my head around. And so if you're listening and you're married, you probably, hopefully you felt the same way or feel the same way. It's just like so weird of a thing now. But it's so exciting. It's so funny too. It's just like it's exciting, it's awkward. It's like, what is this? Is this it? Where am I? What's happening? That kind of feeling sometimes. But also the moment that we got married, it's like you're stepping into this whole different chapter of your life of just you are responsible for everything now. I don't know, maybe it's just like also my personal situation because I've cut ties with certain people, and so like I have no choice, but I have to make sure that I'm responsible for everything. But yeah, it's like you step into marriage and then you suddenly feel like, oh, we have to think about paying our bills together. We have to think about savings. We have to make sure that we're ready for anything because if anything happens, like we have nobody to run to anymore. Like we can only rely on ourselves now. Like that's it, And it was so scary to accept at first, especially like in like last month, January, when everything was sinking in. It was a lot and it was very overwhelming for me to think, especially at a time when I decided to cut certain ties. And that came with cutting off certain financial opportunities. So there's that, and it was very, very scary at first. So yeah, like stepping into that part of your life now wherein you have no choice but to make sure that you are ready for anything, because there's nobody else who you can run to. So that's been quite it was challenging at first, but now you just learn to like ride the waves of it because you have no choice, or else like I don't want to be miserable every day thinking about it. So I'd rather just like live my life and do my best, work hard as much as I can without burning myself out, and just do the best that I can, and making sure that I have a bit of savings, that I am responsible with my money, and that we're being smart about how we spend things. It was very interesting too, because you know how we are now in our new home, in our new house, and like we're literally a family. It's literally our own home, and I don't cook, girl, I don't cook. So that's been difficult because like as women you can't help but take the lead in just ensuring everything at home is just as it should be, right? You can't help it. Like for me, I can't help it because who else will do it, right? And it's just like I'm the type of person, I don't want to nag my husband because I hate it. I hate it when somebody nags me. So I just don't want to nag my husband. When I need to, I communicate it as properly as I can and respectfully as I can to him if needed. But other than that, like I don't want to nag. And and so when it comes to the house stuff, like of course, like I take the bulk of the responsibility most of the time because I see it. Like I see, oh, I need to clean this, I need to do this. I have a helper because I can't do it all on my own. Like it's impossible. And unfortunately, in this household, it's only my husband who can cook. So he has to cook for all of us. So that's been until now. It's still like an adjustment of like, okay, somebody has to go out and buy our groceries. We usually go to the wet market or the tinda to buy everything that we need. And so that's always like not on my priority list because I have so much that I'm doing that I always kind of forget. And then my helper, she's also in school. So she's not always here actually because she's always in school. She has face to face classes. And so she's like out the whole day. So it's basically nobody's home. Nobody cooks as much here, especially except for my husband. And like I have to like train myself to remind him like, hey, you need to cook. Hey, you need to do this sometimes. And he's also working on it because again, we're both like adjusting that we don't have, like a mom to cook or somebody to cook here for us. It has to be part of our daily routine. So, yeah, that's been quite interesting too. um and and now like I'm learning that I have to be more mindful of how I respond to certain situations, both like personally or within the relationship. Because, of course, now it's not just me, it's like me and him. So everything I do affects him, everything he does affects me, all the choices we make affect each other. Unlike before, that's not the case because you can choose whatever you want to do, and that's like your decision, and it's not going to be that big of a deal, or it's not going to impact the other as much because we still would we have our own lives, our own separate lives. So now it's kind of different because like you're married and you have like a legal obligation to each other. So that's been interesting. And so like you have to, like, for me, I have to be more mindful in how I respond to certain things, and that we have to like to communicate this clearly with each other. And like it's almost like you have to do a little meeting between each other. Okay, like we have to discuss this, we have to discuss that. Like it's yeah, it's very different, right? Because you don't typically do that when you're just like girlfriend boyfriend. That's not really that big of a deal. But now, like, okay, we need to sit down, we need to have this conversation, we need to take this seriously, we need to divide the work, all these things. So that's also been one of the biggest changes. Of course, like finances and saving up for your future, because again, I've got nobody else to run to. So I have to make sure that I can handle everything, that I can do it on my own. Um, and another thing besides the money, I think everyone everyone knows that already, when you get married, and like the financial responsibility you have and all of that, and how like you kind of start with nothing almost. um, Another thing is that when it comes to our relationship, like I mentioned earlier, I don't like to nag because it's annoying. And I don't want to constantly remind him or anybody of like what they're supposed to do, what they're not supposed to do, because like that's just frustrating for me to hear. So I've learned to choose my battles, because like I swear to you, when we were just like dating, I would always like nitpick the small little things, thinking that it was such a huge deal. But now it's like, if he does something that I don't really like, I know how to just breathe it in and breathe it out, let it go. If it really bothers me, I let him know. But other than that, like I know how to just choose my battles, and not bring up everything, because it's very, again, annoying, like early in the morning you wake up, and then like you say all these things to your partner, and like, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that, you need to do this, you need to do that. And it's all about like gauging, like for me, we kind of have to gauge one another, because of course when you live together it gets tricky, because maybe at this point your partner isn't in the mood to do a certain type of chore, right? And maybe at this specific time you're the one who has the energy to do the chore, to do some work. And so you kind of have to gauge it and like balance it out a little bit between each other, so that you get each other at a good time, and you don't add on to the stress that they're dealing with, or like that they're trying to figure out. So yeah, we both have been learning to do that a little bit more, just because you want to respect each other's space too. So that's been helping. I know that there are some couples who choose to not live together, again, because it just keeps your sanity, and if it makes the relationship healthy, I'm all for it. So that's kind of where I'm at too, that since we live together and we want to be together here in the same house, under the same roof, I want to make sure that we respect each other's space and me time, and give each other like enough time to think, to just be alone, and not be so like overwhelmed about everything, because again, as a married couple, you just start to have a lot of things that pile on, like a lot of responsibilities that pile on. So definitely like choosing our battles and respecting the space of one another, but also being honest and truthful with each other too, that we're not like hiding anything. That's been important to him. He's always very, very transparent about that. And I've had to work on that. Like, I'm the one who's had to work on being more honest and open about certain things, as open as he is. Another thing is, because we're also married, like I mentioned about like having some time to yourself and like me time, I am learning to navigate not losing myself in this, and not neglecting myself, because again, I have learned recently, especially, that the most important relationship I have is with myself, like no one else. This is the first and only relationship that will mean more to me than my actual marriage, because if I'm not taking care of myself, then my marriage will also eventually like crumble apart. So I need to make sure that I'm not neglecting myself, that I feel secure, and that I'm protecting myself too as much as possible, just in case anything happens. um so that's kind of how I am viewing myself to now in this relationship. Like, do not lose yourself, because I don't want him to lose himself either. I want him to take care of himself too, and pursue what he wants to pursue his happiness, pursue whatever goals he has, even if it is not really aligned with me or with my goals for the meantime. If it helps him grow, and if I can respect that and support him in that, like, that's important to me. And the same thing with him. Like, I always tell him, like, you know what, I think I need a trip, like a solo trip, just me and myself, or maybe just me and with my bestie, my best friend, or just a girlfriend of mine, because that'll give me some time to think and and refresh a little bit, so that I can come back into this relationship, or come back to us, our life here, just feeling renewed, and feeling like I have let go of any baggage that I may have been carrying. So that's kind of where I'm at too in this marriage. And I think that's very important for everyone. If you're in a marriage or even if you're in a relationship, that's very important to do. Like take those solo dates, take time by yourself, go on a trip by yourself without your significant other, because it's actually very therapeutic, more therapeutic than you would realize. Now, along with everything that I've mentioned, of course, I've realized like a few things too. As I mentioned earlier, all I wanted when we were still dating was to get married and have kids, like period. That's all I dreamed of. And then this happened and this came along, and now I'm realizing that wow, like actually a marriage is such a serious commitment and it's like for life. Like I mean, I knew that, but then when you're in it, you're like, damn, I didn't that's like this is a whole nother level. And because of that, I've realized, okay, I do not want any kids yet at all. I don't want any kids. I don't want to get pregnant yet because I need some time to enjoy my marriage. I want some time to enjoy this life that we have for now, and without the kids, without the stress from the kids yet. And of course, like right now, we're trying to build our finances. We're trying to build a life together. So adding on to that, like immediately, is just like too much stress that I'm not ready yet. And because of that, because of our choice of not having kids yet, I'm excited. I'm excited about this life that I get to live with my husband. I'm excited about creating our own little life as a family, our own little family eventually. So i'm I'm so excited about like where we're gonna go and what are the things that we'll get to do, the adventures we'll get to do together. But also I know that there will be a lot of difficult and dark times along with the big and special moments. And so I am I am excited for all of that, even like the bad things that might come along, because I know that I have him. And that's like at the end of the day, that's all that matters to me, is that I have him to face all of this, like to live the rest of my life with all the challenges and the struggles that we'll face. I'm going to have him by my side. And that's all that really matters to me right now. All the moments wherein we get to celebrate that we're happy, those life changing decisions and moments that we get to experience. I get to experience that with him. So a lot has shifted more on like perspective, not really much in our day to day life and how we live and everything, not that much yet, because it really has like been a shift in how we see our the world now, and how we see each other, how we see us, how we see our life. That's kind of where the change really is. And of course, when it comes to our routine, the one thing that has changed for me is just like it's just having to work so much more now and to do so much more now, because now like I'm not working just for myself. I'm working for us, for our family, for our future kids, for our future too, and of course for this household, and then ensuring that this house is exactly how I want it to be. And it's a house that makes me feel like I can relax and just unwind. And with that comes some work too. There is some chores that have to be done. But I'm grateful that we actually have some help, that we do have a help here. And that my husband is also very helpful. Like we divide all the tasks, and if ever I feel like I'm overwhelmed, I always let him know, can you do this please, because I'm just feeling really overwhelmed. Like instantly he's like, yes, of course, I'll do that. And so I'm glad that I have a partner like that who's so easy to just to approach. um, but yeah, I don't know if anyone else out there, if you who is listening, if you are married and you are experiencing the same thing, or if you are not married yet and hoping to get married soon, and if this like has taught you anything new, or like opened up a whole new world of what it's like behind, the marriage doors of life. Yeah, it's a fun experience, and I just hope that everyone who is about to get married or who is currently married, that you have a relationship that's as honest and true, and that you both have respect for one another, for each other's boundaries, for each other's privacy. You give each other the space that you may need, because again, it's so easy to get frustrated or annoyed about the little things. So just like choose your battles, um, and know that we're all here because we want to protect this love that we have created from the beginning. It's a very special, sacred kind of love. And so it's important to value that and to protect it and to protect your individual self as well, like outside of that marriage, making sure that you both are happy in who you are and you feel whole in who you are, and that your partner is not filling up a missing piece in your life, or is not making up for any sadness or insecurity that you may have. You both should be able to stand on your own, as individuals without the relationship. You should be able to feel whole on your own, and then you come together and you just create this wonderful, magnificent life together, wherein you create change, you create positive change for your community, with that love that you share, but also you are there for each other for the rest of life, just holding each other's hands, supporting one another through everything that life throws at you. Literally, we've always told each other that we are each other's partner. Like, this is a partnership. And so we both need to support one another, be there for one another. Whatever happens, we will work on it together. We will work through it together. And that's just how we've always seen our relationship from the beginning, and even until now, especially until now that we're married. And that's coming from somebody who used to be so insecure. I had so many toxic behavior. I was depressed. I didn't know how to cope and manage my mental health, my personal issues that I would deal with. I was always in unhealthy relationships. And after all of that, prioritizing my healing and forgiveness and feeling whole and loved from within, and just being in this self-love, confident, sexy, empowered era has really helped me attract and create like healthier relationships. Like, really, I can see it in my friendships and everyone who's in my life now, that I know that I have attracted these people because I took the time to work on myself and to ensure that I knew who I was, that I was whole on my own, that I was no longer this insecure little girl who felt like she wasn't ever good enough. And I was able to find this relationship that was finally very healthy. We had honest communication from the beginning. We were both committed, and it came at just the right time for the both of us. And that gave the both of us an opportunity to just correct all of our mistakes from our past relationships and make sure that this time we do it right and we do it together as a team. I was once a girl who dreamt of just getting married and having kids immediately and creating this family. And then you realize that as once you are there, once you are married, things just change. Things just change. You just realize that, oh, we have some priorities, and we have responsibilities that we should probably focus on before anything else. So of course, finances, protecting your love and making sure that it stays strong through this marriage, and that maybe kids can wait for the meantime. They can come later when we are at the right headspace, because I know that when he's ready and when I'm ready, we're just gonna know, and it's just gonna be easy for us to make that decision, to just make that decision. And then that way, whatever happens, because I know it may not be easy, whatever happens, we're ready. We are ready emotionally, everything, spiritually, mentally, physically, for that. And through that journey, it's important to me to never neglect myself, because again, I don't want my partner, my husband, to do the same. I don't want him to neglect himself either. So it's important that I protect myself and that I'm nourishing my first and most important relationship, which is with me. And because of that, this just makes me even more excited to see how our life together unfolds, and how we create this family together, and that, we stay together, we grow together, not grow apart, but grow together through the ups and downs, through the big moments, through the difficult moments, and that, he will always be my partner in this lifetime, that we will always inspire each other, respect one another, and that we will be there to support each other through it all. So that's pretty much it for today's episode of how just my life has changed after marriage. And thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Ilonggayogi podcast. Please check out my classes. You can again check them out at Healing Iloilo on Facebook, Instagram, and you can check all my other similar content as well on YouTube and other social media platforms at Ilonggayogi. I'm wishing you peace in the body, peace in the mind, and peace in your heart wherever you are. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you again soon.